Well, it's the 10th of March, and we are live once again. So this is going to be kind of fun for me. We have a lot to talk about today, and for some of you, this might be a little bit redundant, but I thought since we were going live, it's a good time to talk about not only what's going on in the world, but kind of bring it all together for you and tell you why it's happening. So we are 10 days away from the equinox, which is a favorite time of the deep state. And we are just a few days away from a blood moon eclipse. Now, everybody might think, well, this is black magic. You know, they love to do black magic. Why? They're Satanists. You know, the deep state are Satanists. So, you know, they're going to do black magic on that day, and then miraculous bad things will happen. And that's not really the case. There are definite mechanisms that were in place, and it had nothing to do with them dancing around bonfires, contrary to popular belief, even contrary to their belief in a lot of cases. So a lot to talk about, but we're going to start with something that I've been saying for a long time now. We have the Doji department. And the Doji department is headed by Elon Musk. And some people think that they're doing great things. We see it as attempted theft all over the world and attempted fake money schemes pretty much on the daily. What I mean by fake money schemes is leveraging of other people's crypto, namely yours, if you're watching this. There has been a lot of theft from all blockchain cryptocurrency platforms, as I understand it. And things are starting to really heat up because the government is bankrupt. And I know a lot of you are going to look at me and say, well, how are they bankrupt? Everybody's still going to work. Congress is still talking. And we're not just talking about the US either. We're talking about the United Kingdom, China, Russia, most all of the Middle East, most all African countries. And it's pretty much worldwide as far as governments are concerned at this point. And this all hangs, their success or failure all hangs on a blood moon, which is coming up this week. Apparently, they think very highly of their black magic workers and that they're going to make a miracle happen. But as you and I both know, there's only one power in this universe that makes miracles happen, and it's not Elon Musk. And it's not Trump, and it's not any president, and it's not black magic workers or any of those people. It's just one power. So source, God, whatever you want to call that being, that's pretty much where power comes from. That is miraculous. So let's talk about the Doji department for a second. We pulled a clip from Twitter. And it's a clip and an excerpt from an interview where Elon Musk basically admits, and this is the first time that anyone from the government has admitted that they're bankrupt. So let's take a look.
I mean, the reason I'm putting so much effort into this is that I think it is a very dire situation. It's not it's not optional, basically. So, America's going bankrupt. So that just can't happen. It's just
America's gone bankrupt. Not just America. Pretty much, if you're watching this and you happen to live in a country, which most of us do, you're all bankrupt. And this is something we've been talking about for years. And what are we going to do? What is going to happen next? So I thought I'd discuss a little bit about how the world works. Why are governments going bankrupt? How did we get here? And where do we go from here? And I thought I would take this opportunity, because we are live on many different platforms, to talk about it, because it really involves all of you and all of your participation to make it happen. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Okay. So there are a few factors that we see as people that have run the world. One of those things would be the financial system. Everybody wants to know where the money is at. Next is the media. We have mainstream media that has been telling us stories for a really long time so that we believe certain things are happening or certain things are true. By media, we're also talking about the political sector, in part because that is, well, I guess you would say that's media too. That is Hollywood for ugly people. All they do is get up there and talk and make lots of promises to all of you, and we don't see anything. And I know some people will watch this new presidency in America, and most of the world is watching, because they usually do. What happens in America happens everywhere. So what is really happening, though? And this is the thing with media, is we hear a lot of stuff and it gets us all excited, like we're all happy that all these amazing things are going to happen. But at the end of the day, you pretty much get up the next morning and, well, nothing's different. They don't talk about building bridges in your neighborhood or fixing roads or even giving schools more funding so that our kids can get a better education, or our grandkids. We don't see anything. What we do see are alleged trillions of dollars that go to governments worldwide every year for a budget. In America, that budget is usually around, a trillion and a half, 1.8 trillion. Biden talked about 2 trillion, 2.4, 3 trillion. I mean, he doesn't really know math anyway, so, what's in the number? But we didn't see anything, as the people. And this is important. But this is the job of the media. The media is supposed to make you feel good about doing things. They make you feel good about buying a car. They make you feel good about going into debt. They make you feel good about buying the latest and greatest hair stuff or the next medicine. And, there's all kinds of commercials and that type of thing. So the media is responsible for how you think and how you feel about what's going on in the world. Pretty much. You might feel sad if you see an alleged, and I say alleged, school shootings, or you see tragic events or hurricanes. And with the advent of social media now, we have average everyday people, which is part of propaganda, average everyday people telling you stories that may or may not be true as well. I know we saw an awful lot during the time when we were not supposed to leave our house, for the reason we are on all the tubes and stuff. So for the reason, and, a lot of them are promoting, this is the health benefits of this. I'm saying this nicely. This is the health benefits of that. A lot of people went out because it's on social media and got the thing. There were even social media influencers saying it's cool to do this so that the kids would want to do it and convince their parents that this is a good idea. So a lot of what we see in our world is controlled by the media. A lot of what 8 billion people do is controlled by the media. That's even social media and even all these channels you're watching this on right now. They put people up top, they take some of the videos down, and there's a lot of censorship that goes on, especially if you're saying something positive. And then if you are still watching those people and watching those videos and they don't want you to, and they haven't taken them down yet, then what they're going to do is create a campaign against you, that person. I know that for a fact. So media, social media platforms, it's pretty much all the same. The algorithms that tell you what you're going to watch, be it for a minute or two on TikTok or 10 minutes or 5 hours on YouTube, are much the same. They tell you how to think and they tell you how to feel. And whether you want to admit it or not, you think and feel that way. in a lot of ways. So that's how they use media to control the world. Next would be military and intelligence. Military intelligence changes borders. That's their job. They create wars in order to change the outcome of countries. Maybe it's a regime change. Maybe it's a coup. Maybe it's different territories and borders. And it's important to understand what I mean by territories and borders. A lot of you might think those are countries, but that's not actually the case. The New World Order, but it's not new, so let's call them the World Order, has territories too. And that's what we're seeing happen in the Middle East right now. They are trying to create new territories, meaning Russia's territory was Syria, and the US would like the territory of Syria. And so there's a little bit of a fight going on. They think they're orchestrating some plans and orders of some smart people, or maybe not even people in some cases. But are they really? Where did this come from? And I'm going to tell you that pretty much all those communication lines have been cut off. So I don't think they're taking orders from that anymore. Intelligence and information. We watch a lot of movies and we understand that there are Jason Bourne type characters running around the world, and we see spies and MI6 and all of these different movies, and we think, oh my gosh, they're risking their life to get information about one country or another, and who's the enemy and who's not the enemy. But all this is orchestrated as well. It is a well-known fact, at least when you're on this level of things, you understand that intelligence agencies receive false information all the time. So does military intelligence. They receive information on where to go, where to find weapons of mass destruction, where their targets are going to be, and they aren't necessarily in those places at all. They also stage a lot of things, meaning you think they're bombing this city or that city, and you see missiles flying, even on social media these days. And turns out they're being shot into the desert somewhere. We have had incidents where we have things where the military has allegedly shown up. And I'm not just talking about the US. I'm talking about like in Australia when all those floods were happening. There were plenty of videos out there, and we even showed some of them on our news network, where you would see the military showing up, taking pictures, and then leaving. And then it was the citizens of the world that got together and got people to safety and made sure that there was food available. Same thing happened in the US, in the Carolinas, when we had an unfortunate hurricane there. So, it's always been you. And that's part of why I'm going to show you this today, because it's always been you. And we're getting to a critical point where it doesn't look like we're going to have some of these factors anymore. So again, it's going to be up to you. So military intelligence, financial, media, and then we have politics. The Hollywood for ugly people. We all get up out of our chairs once every 4 years, or once every 2 years, or once every 6 years, depending on what country you're in. And we vote for these lovely people that are going to save us. This is that savior syndrome. We love a good savior. We love someone else to blame for all our problems. And just as much as we love to think that the next one is going to be better. And they spent almost a year telling us how much better they're going to be. And in reality, they all work for the same people. You don't get hired to work at government studios unless you are part of the political actor guild, so to speak, and you have to be approved to be there. What they would say and what they do is dictated, however, by someone else. Why is the world such a mess if all of these 5 factors are controlled by some people that you may or may not know, may think you know? But the world is such a mess because, well, the smart people left. So you have all of the people that were lower level management and people that were just supposed to follow orders trying to give the orders now. And they're making some pretty poor decisions, like the one they're going to make this week. And that poor decision is being dependent on yet another eclipse. Now, according to the people that believe in black magic, which most of these people do, they believe that an eclipse plus a blood moon must be extra special black magic for them. That means that the world is going to spin in their favor. They are going to be able to fund governments without sending Elon Musk out to steal money from everybody that doesn't have any either. And they think that it's going to change the world. And I can tell you right now, it's not. They're all going to wake up 2 days, 3 days later because they believe the power of a full moon lasts for at least 3 days. During equinox time, some people would even say it's 7 days, which is why they started over the weekend, in the last couple of days, trying to get their black magic on every night. It's what they do. But nothing's really happening. You see, because, the moon doesn't really hold any power unto itself, and neither does the sun, and neither does this planetary parade thing that happens or planetary alignments unto themselves. Other than the fact, in the natural world, when celestials come into close contact with each other, especially very large celestials we call planets, magic sometimes happens. It's the same thing when you meet someone who maybe you feel like you've known them forever and you have no idea why. You've never even spoken to this person. You just saw them across a room. It could be a child, could be an adult. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a love feeling. It could just be like, wow, I've known that person forever. That too is also part of the lie. Not that you didn't know them before, but it's part of the lie to prevent you from recognizing those people. So humanity has been in some serious trouble for quite a long time. And today, I think it's a good idea because we are coming upon that transition. It's going to happen in 2025. Is it going to happen in 2 days? Is it going to happen in 3 days? Well, who knows? It could. It could happen by the end of the week. That's entirely possible. But the changes that I'm talking about is your perceived leadership not running all of those 5 factors anymore, which would be devastating for them. Their ego won't even let them believe that that is possible. But remember something as we start this bit of information I'm going to give you today. Remember as we start this, just how powerful you are. When change has really happened in this world, it's happened because of you. I know you think it happens because of governments and militaries and political leaders and religious leaders and all of these people that you've come to understand are not telling you the truth. But real change happens with you. Always has. So I don't want you to be afraid of what's coming. I want you to embrace what's coming and just realize that it's always been you. So let's break down for a minute these factors. But I want to point out some things to you, and I've got my whiteboard here, so we're going to do that here in just a second. You're going to see my lovely handwriting live. It's just great. You think, when I tell you who runs the financial system, the majority of the people watching this, maybe not the people that are watching me every week, but the majority of the people that are watching this would go, oh, it's the Fed. If this was 5 years ago, you would say, oh, it's the Fed. It's the Federal Reserve. It's the Federal Reserve families. It's the Rothschild family. It's the Rockefeller family. It's the Bear family. And depending on what country you're from, you can insert a different last name. If you're in South Africa, you might be talking about the Dutch. The Dutch people, they run this country. You might be talking about the British people, if you're a Commonwealth country. Where is the leadership of this planet and who got us here? Because now you're angry. You've probably been watching a lot of videos for a long time and you're angry. You're like, who are these people? We want to hunt them down. And then they bring you this guy who says, I'm hunting them down. And he tells you all about it on live TV. Yeah, but he's just a president. And presidents don't have the right to hunt down the people who run political studios. You'll lose your job. You get assassinated. You leave office very quickly if you go off what they call the reservation. And by the reservation, that means don't ever forget who you work for. So we're going to break down these different sectors. But first, we're going to talk about the control structures of the world in a little more detail. It's going to explain to you why these people get all excited on a blue moon or a new moon or a red moon or a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse, an equinox, or otherwise. So it's not black magic and it's not magic. It's pretty much science. So let's start, let's talk about the financial system for a minute here, because this is real relevant because governments are quote unquote going broke. So where does that leave you? You're seeing the stock market go down, and you're going to see the stock market go down probably until the end of this week. It's going to happen. Is it going down percentage wise enough for them to stop trading, which does happen? Trading is often halted when the market drops by a large percentage. It's not the amount, it's the percentage that the plunge committee comes in, plunge protection people, and then stops trading for the day. Or they'll come in and they'll get their Berkshire Hathaways and Soroses and whatnot to come in and prop up the market, and so it doesn't fall down, and then it opens back up, an hour or two later, or sometimes the next day. This has happened a number of times in history, unless they actually want to create fear. A lot of people have retirement funds, and part of those funds might be invested in the market, or based on hedge funds that are invested in the market or whatever, wherever your retirement fund is. So it can be kind of a little bit scary when they see the market drop by that percentage or by a certain amount. Today it's down about 1,000 points or something like that, give or take. I didn't watch it till the end, so I just took a quick look. And for some people, oh my gosh, that's scary. But it's not as scary as you think it is. That's number one, because our market's trading, 42,000 or something like that, the Dow is at now. So it's not really that high of a percentage when you look at it that way. But the mainstream media is going to help increase that fear for you. And they're going to talk about people on the floor of the stock exchange yelling and screaming and sweating, and they're posting all the pictures on CNN, and they really want to scare the crap out of you. Yes, they do. And now, if you are invested in the market and you have never watched this before and never watched a GIA report, you are going to be in a panic. You're going to start calling your pension companies. You're going to call your retirement fund companies. You're probably going to change to safer securities or whatever your investment is. You're going to make some life changes based on the fact that they made you panic. So, we're going to tell you how not to panic. If governments go down, also don't panic. They really don't do anything for you. So we're going to start with the financial system a little bit and tell you who or what is to blame for the financial system being the way that it is. So on that note, got my whiteboard and I'm ready to go. Okay, let's see. Financial. I guess nobody really wants to see me write on the whiteboard today. We always have problems when we're going live. Nobody wants to listen to me talk. I don't understand, especially not these people at the deep state. So, let's see, should we start? So the whole internet is abuzz with things like the creature from Jekyll Island. They are talking about the beginning of the Federal Reserve and how all of these quote unquote people that are allegedly elites met on Jekyll Island, which is just outside of the U.S. state of Georgia. It's part of the state of Georgia, actually. So Jekyll Island, and they made all these decisions all by themselves. This is what you are told to believe. And they got together and they created something called the Federal Reserve, which a lot of you probably already know is not a government organization. It's not a part of the United States government. It is basically a government contractor. That's what it is. But everybody thinks, well, the Federal Reserve controls the dollar and makes fiat dollars. That's not entirely true. The Federal Reserve makes every country's currency, with zero exceptions at this point. They give allocation numbers, they print the currency. Maybe they don't print it there. They'll use one of their other partners, such as De La Rue or even Goznak in Russia. They're all part of the Federal Reserve System, and they, you would think, run the financial system. So I'm going to put the Fed down here. Okay, I'm going to put governments underneath the Fed and central banks. So, and central banks down here. Also treasuries. Okay, and this is not just the United States Treasury. These are treasuries of the world. Even though you may not have a public treasury, every country in the world has a treasury. So when you tell me that there's going to be a new government department, it's called Doji, which is really with the treasury over here. And then you tell me you've got a guy who doesn't even exist anymore. You tell me you've got a guy that is going to change your life and is going to change the world, and he's doing the thing, and he's fighting the deep state, and he's taking down the Federal Reserve and the IRS. He's telling you everything you want to hear, and there is not a gosh darn thing he's going to do about it. Not one thing. His job is to get there on TV in the media section and make you feel good about your country again. Make you feel good about your government again. He is there to tell you that he is going to save you. So you'll all go to church and you're going to pray for him on the weekends. Maybe not all of you, but there's a lot of people praying, meditating, cheering, and whatnot on for this guy. I've seen it in other countries. It reminds me of a similar operation that was run about a decade ago that you've probably forgotten about. Do you remember a time in 2014, and if you go back and look at your news and alternative news and all the different news, I swear to you, if Putin, he was the hero at the time, he was the savior, and he was the guy that he could run for president in any country in the world and win, and you would all love it. You wouldn't even care that he's a Russian. You would have been happy to have him because he was the hero of the day at the time. Now, not so much so, because his term as hero is over, and it's time for this guy, allegedly, to be the hero. For a short time in between, less than a decade, we heard a lot of things online about Chinese elders and how the Chinese are coming to your country and the Chinese are building this and doing this, and they're just benevolent, can't even talk today, benevolent humans. They are spiritual. They meditate all day and they're going to save you. And well, that didn't work out very well. And so away we go. Now you got a new guy who purposely left office for a time because there was supposed to be a crash of the United States at that time. During the administration in between Trump and Trump, there was supposed to be a crash of the United States. Matter of fact, everybody counted on it. I don't know if that's because we had a leap year? Who knows? Why the black magic people up there at the top thought that was going to happen, but yet it didn't. But it was part of a plan, for sure. But that plan wasn't written by anybody that's here now. So now you've got the Federal Reserve and the IRS. Let's tell you about the Fed. We already know they're an NGO. They're a non-government organization that is responsible for allocation numbers, at least disbursement of those things. And we know that the Federal Reserve is supposed to make all the rules. But what the Federal Reserve makes is regulations. Regulations and laws are not the same thing. Laws are actually made by your political actor people. Well, sort of, kind of, not really. They're actually made by the government, and that's not who you see on TV. So Federal Reserve makes regulations, but most banks adhere to them. Why? Because if you are a bank and you are not a member of the Federal Reserve, a member bank of the Federal Reserve, it means you don't get a routing number if they're in the United States. You don't have an IBAN number. You don't have a SWIFT code. You don't have access to MasterCard and Visa. You don't have access to American Express or even Russian card payment systems or China's SIP system or any of the other systems of the world if you are not a member bank, central bank or otherwise, of the Federal Reserve. You also would be prevented from trading your currency cross borders, like we do with the US dollar and the euro and the Australian dollar and the Canadian dollar and the Japanese yen. So there are benefits to being a member of the Federal Reserve. Therefore, people listen to what they have to say, and the do's and don'ts we know as regulations. A sister company to the IRS, sister company to the Federal Reserve is the IRS. So the IRS we know as a tax collection agency. So we every year, whether it's called the IRS or it's called the tax authority in your country, pretty sure you got one. And you think that you're paying the government, and you're not. You're actually paying back people that are above Federal Reserve level. So above the Federal Reserve, do they approve government budgets? They used to. Do they trade against government budgets to make extra money for themselves? They used to. Could you go as a bank to the Federal Reserve window and borrow money if you needed to, like an overnight swap or increase your capital, and you could then utilize that capital to get more capital from the Federal Reserve? Yes, you could. If you were in default, you would know that the Federal Reserve was going to call you. Pretty much none of these responsibilities fall on the Treasury. So everybody's like, well, what does the Treasury do? The Treasury is part of a different group of people as part of your world government. So your world government, everybody's going to say, oh, that's the Rothschild family. No, they're still down here. Other people might say, oh, Soros is a part of that. No, still down here. Oh, we've heard about Medici's. Yep, still down here. So all of these family names that we see on the internet are down here. They are nowhere near your actual world government in any way, shape, or form. I guess we could call this somewhat financial and political at this point, because they do kind of go together. So once you get beyond these people who are members of a dragon family, also known as the Illuminati, you also have over here, you have a black sun. Black sun folks, Well, they worship death. They are security. You could say that these people here were more on the financial sector. They pretty much governed or utilized orders that came from someone else to make your financial system run. But at the time, pretty much as long as they stayed following orders, there was unlimited money. That hasn't happened in a really long time. The last time governments got any serious money was probably over 4 or 5 years ago, and I know that because I did it myself. As far as the Black Sun side, they're going to be your folks that run your militaries. They're going to be your folks that run your agencies. In every country in the world, it all goes back to a single source. So if you think that the Russians are fighting the Americans, or there was a smackdown in the White House of Zelensky, and Zelensky is now like so scared of Trump or something like that, you're wrong. The Russians are the Russians, and the Ukrainians are the Russians. They are the same people. They are all former KGB agents, all ex-Soviet guys for the most part, and they are pretty much playing with each other right now. They all sit around, drink vodka, and talk about what they're going to orchestrate for your enjoyment and your media presentation. Pretty much that's it. So, Rothschild and the Order of the Black Sun, directly or indirectly, when they would want money, it would typically come at a few different times per year. Now, none of those really coincided with any kind of celestial event, alignments, solar eclipses, or anything like that. But to some degree, on the solstices, there would be some money. There would always be money on the first of the year. For orders and instructions that were set forth in the previous year's meetings. And they had some jobs to do too. So let's talk a little bit about fiat money and why we call it fiat. Since we're still kind of talking about financial systems. So everybody's upset that we have fiat money. It's just the Federal Reserve can print and print and print and print and print. And, they can do it to the end of days, and there's nobody to oversee them except for these families. That is completely and totally a lie. Because if the Federal Reserve could print and print and print and print and print, then why is the U.S. government broke, in the words of a person that works in a department at the U.S. Treasury? Well, that's because it's not true. The Federal Reserve is also somewhat a political face front, but more from the financial sector, but they do their part in the media. They're all part of your movie. Do they actually run anything? Do they regulate anything? Do they make any decisions? Never. Does the U.S. Treasury make any decisions? Do they do anything? No. They issue some bonds. So every year, they would issue some bonds, and they would make a decision sometime around the 4th of July here in the U.S. And for most countries, it's around sometime during what we call in the Northern Hemisphere here, the summer months. So they would issue some bonds pretty much against the assets of the United States, or insert country name here. It's the same everywhere. Even if you have a reserve bank in your country like Australia or South Africa, they are underlings still to the Federal Reserve. So governments issue bonds against assets. So in the ways of the world, even though we are off a gold standard worldwide, what is a government asset? Well, you. So people. People are considered assets. The more citizens that you have, the more assets you think your country actually has. So why would they want to expedite citizenship? Why would they want people to move to their country? People with more assets and or citizens have more money. That's the way it used to work. That's why you see there's over 300 million people that are U.S. citizens at this point in time. And pretty much, even though by landmass we're not the largest country in the world, we have one of the largest populations for a singular country. You know, with the exception, I guess we would fall probably not too far behind a few other countries and then China. You know, the population of China is somewhere over 1 billion at this point. So they do have the largest population in the world. I think it was like 1.3, 1.4 billion people there in China. So they've been working on population control of their country because, well, you got to, when you are the government and you are communist, now you have to feed all those people, don't you? So every country within China, every company within China is partially owned by the government, which means the government now has to support all these people, and assets then, become a liability. They've got to educate all these people. They've got to get all these people jobs. They've got to pay for all of this stuff. And China's, broke. They haven't really been paying Russia for any of their pipeline gas and natural gas that they're getting through their pipelines. It's been several months since they've made any significant payments to the Russians. The Russians are hurting, because it's all about geopolitical control of the region over there. So, yeah, everybody's pretty well broke at this point, and everybody's trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, pay for these wars in the Middle East they've been trying to get going. They've gotten some money from the Qatari royal families, Kuwaiti royal families, but really, there's still no war. Why? Because nobody's giving these people down here any money. Okay, so people are assets. People are also liabilities. You could also take into consideration things. Well, no country has any gold anymore. They haven't had any gold or assets or in-ground assets or rare earth minerals in a long time, matter of fact. It's been, in some cases, decades, and in some cases, over a century. I know you're going to say, wait a minute, no way. We have, in the U.S., we have the Bureau of Land Management. And you're going to say, there's plenty of gold there. And I'm going to tell you, there isn't. You see, the Bureau of Land Management is also an NGO who assigned all your in-ground assets, if you live here in the United States, already, long time ago. I mean, over a century ago, maybe actually in some cases, depending on which part of the U.S. you're talking about. 200 years ago, if not more. So, yeah. So as part of your membership as a country to the Federal Reserve and as a membership to the United Nations and a membership, of the financial system, if you'd like to have one, then you have assigned over all of your in-ground assets. And then what happens there? Okay. So every year, the government, treasuries, whatnot, when they need money, they issue bonds, and then you think they go to the fiat house called the Fed. Well, all the Fed really does is then send those bonds over to the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency. And that is in Belgium. They have a partner called the XN system, which is a global tax authority. And part of the reason why everybody is really confused is because these systems really don't exist. This is your global markets, basically, both on market and off market. So if you have a bond and it has a number, it comes from the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency. If you have a birth certificate, in order to be considered an asset of a country, it also has a number that comes from the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency. If you bought a tomato at the grocery store and it has a little code on there that you scan, It also was given that code by the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency. Everything has a number so that it can go somewhere else, get a bond, a secondary bond issued by the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency, and then it goes off somewhere else. So the Association of the Numerical Numbering Agency and the XN system, or Global Tax Authority, are partners. If you are a country and you are a part of the Federal Reserve System, then all of your taxes, well, 80% of your taxes goes to what you perceive as a pass-through organization. You see them as the financial people that run the world. So you would see all of these bonds coming from governments, coming from the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency, from global stock markets, from tax organizations, against your people, against your birth certificates, against your prisoners in your country, against everything. Everything has a number, and everything would go into this little funnel through some member, whoever in your country is the head of the Order of the Dragon for your country or your region. Now, regionally speaking, behind the scenes, you have seen the world cut up into over 200 countries, but that's not true. We really have had, well, somewhere between 9 and 13 in the entire world. The banking system is the same way. You might think that there are 10 or 12 banking jurisdictions based on the fact there are 12 sectors of the Federal Reserve. That is also not true. So once it hits the desk of the Order of the Dragon, they need to comply with the orders. Now, a certain amount of money would be held in what's called off-ledger accounts in the past. And those off-ledger accounts were for very, very, very strict orders, and only those orders. Now, you might be saying, where is the Order of the Black Sun in this mess? Well, they too would have to submit bonds or vouchers from the Department of Defense, GCHQ, doesn't matter what country you're in, you would have to submit a voucher. You have to put something in to get something out. What do militaries do? They gain territories. That's what they do. They take over territories. They insert, even though it might look is running China, that could be an American. That could be a British person. You just don't know whose side of the Order of the Dragon they are on. You could have a Chinese president in Australia, which you do. So it doesn't matter what the face looks like and whether they talk like a big game, like they're a hero. This is who they report to for the financial sector. Now, beyond them, we had smart people. So Order of the Dragon goes down here. Are they Satanists? Well, probably worse than that. Are they Luciferians? Yeah. Do they have an agenda? Oh, yeah, definitely. Totally. 100%. But they don't get to think for themselves either, because these are the face front for governments. You know, in the beginning, and we're going back to why governments are bankrupt here. In the beginning, at the beginning of all this whole mess and whatnot, of this Trump administration before they got in, they're like, oh, we're taking over the Fed. We're taking down the Fed. We're doing something to the Fed. We're shutting down the IRS. Well, that's not a government organization. And I had to tell them most recently that their military and their intelligence agencies do not belong to the government either. So everybody thinks that the military is going to save the United States. No, not in their wheelhouse, not their job. They are there to gain territory. So they are quote unquote security. Now, by security, that has nothing to do with you. They're not here to secure you. They're here to secure the assets of the owners of property, which are not these people. So Rothschild had very little say as to what happens in the financial sector, even though the Order of the Dragon was pretty well responsible for that sector. Now, there are many other names you hear. They are all members of the Rothschild family. They are the quote unquote line of Solomon. They are the non-Jewish Jewish people. They run Israel. Everything Israel does is because they tell them to do it. Above Rothschild's head, you have other family names that you've never ever heard of, and they are from groups called the Sanhedrin. You have down here the Black Sun, running your global security, saving the day, being the heroes. They run militaries, they run intelligence agencies, they run everything cybersecurity, NSA, you name it. That's a part of this organization. Did they create it? No. Have they ever given orders to them before? No, definitely not. Okay, as part of the Order of the Black Sun, you also have all your secret space programs. You've heard about these from many people on the internet. You know, you've heard Greer and David Icke and Ike, or whatever his name is. Icke, probably better. You know, you have all these people talking about space programs. Did the space program operatives have more pull than a lot of the other members of the Order of the Black Sun? Yes. Did they walk in and out of places like NATO, the Department of Defense, Global Head, GCHQ, Russian SVR, you name it, pick a country, doesn't matter. They could walk in and out of anywhere. And they were the operatives that technically didn't work for any country, really, but a lot of them originated from the US. So in part. Now, above their head, for the most part, on this side, you also had covens. So a Sanhedrin is also a coven. And this is where your black magic workers come in. Now, these people down here truly believed that if they howl at the black moon, insert ritual type here, eat babies, drink adrenochrome, do all the things that they, you hear about on the internet, and far worse than that when they existed, because most of them are broken up. Now, the secret space program doesn't like the fact that they really don't have a coven, so they've been recruiting black magic workers. So we used to see those, we need actors, on Craigslist ads, and we would see them saying, "Oh, we need actors for this natural disaster event or something." $1,500 a head, a day, or whatever it was back at that time. Well, the secret space program has been putting out on other lines, we need black magic workers. So if you are watching this and you are a black magic worker and you are in need of a job that doesn't pay you anything, then feel free to give the secret space program operatives a shout. You can find some of them at the White House, and they are recruiting black magic workers. For those of you that don't know, as I've said before, pretty much every president in the history of the United States, including George Washington, had black magic workers that worked exclusively for them and would come in and out of the White House all the time. Reagan, no different. Trump is no different. They all had them. They all had psychics. I actually personally sat face to face with Obama's, so I know this for a fact. It is no different over in Russia. I also had the displeasure of meeting some of those people before. I also have met some from South Africa. I have met them from Haiti. There have been a number of different places in the world where I've met their personal black magic workers. Now, pretty much whatever a coven says, if a coven happens to stoop down low enough to give orders to a government, because remember, there's several layers down. Yeah. If they're giving orders directly to a government, well, that means you're borderline running off the reservation. Normally, they would just call up their friends, the Rothschilds, or in the Lee family in China, or Gorbachev in Russia, because he's a member too. They would call up one of these people and they would say, get your people in line, get your governments in your sector in line. meaning your jurisdiction is falling out of line with the orders and instructions, and you are running the risk of, let's just say, catastrophe. And they take their own people out, for sure. Now, the covens on this side do a lot of the same. They also do a lot of the corporate espionage that goes on. So, for example, if Pfizer wanted to buy out Moderna, Pfizer would hire a bunch of black magic workers from a coven and do the inception game, like is in the movie. They would mess with their heads, do all kinds of different things. And eventually, whoever is running Pfizer or whatever corporation inserted here, would get what they want. You'd also have operatives running around from the Order of the Black Sun to make it happen for you. And then they insert their own people at the top. Same thing goes for like patents, for example. They're the ones that take all of the technologies when you have created something amazing or perhaps some kind of a medical innovation. I'm not going to say the CURE word, but a medical innovation of some sort, that could definitely put some of the other medical innovations to shame, let's just say. And these are the people that are going to come after you. They're going to kill your company. They're going to take you out. They're going to not make sure that they own it, control it. That's their job because they need to keep things in line. Okay, so above covens, you also had family masters. Family masters still are not, and you had them on both sides. So family masters are not decision makers either. Hate to say it. Family masters are just supposed to keep the covens in line. They also take orders 100%. They don't move a black magic finger in any direction whatsoever unless their orders say to do that. Same thing goes with corporate espionage. It doesn't matter how a member of the Order of the Black Sun would like to take out their enemy or another company that has a more innovative product. It doesn't matter at all unless these people took orders from someone else. So they're often passed down the ranks. So it's no surprise here that a lot of times we see governments as our leaders, so to speak. We see governments and government leaders attempting to make decisions, more so now than ever, because now that most of these people are dead, they're trying to make a new one here with the space program operatives from every country in the world. They're not being totally successful. They've got some people together. I know that here in the U.S., they've got a group of women that think that they're really good at black magic, but really aren't. They are definitely recruiting heavily right now because they need someone to do the thing, whatever the thing is for the full moon or the new moon or whatever's next. And it's just not going to work out. We're going to talk about that too. So we had family masters, and then we had a group of people that are called the parents. Parents could be people that were even famous figures throughout history. They were given special life extension technology that we are not privileged to, and most of these people aren't privileged to below that level either. They can live thousands of years, 7,000 years, 10,000 years, 15,000 years. Believe it or not, all human beings at one point in time were, we chose when we were going to exit this vessel. We could jump into another vessel. We could do lots of different things, but that's been prohibited because, there's always control. So we're still on world governments and controllers of the financial system. So there was 21 of these people that existed. They are human beings. They just were given special technologies to live a lot longer than we ever could or were permitted to, because you got to rotate the assets. See, once you turn, retirement age, whatever that is in your country, you're considered not an asset anymore. You're not producing anything. Assets produce, right? It's kind of like when you have a loan. If you have a car loan at a bank, that is considered an asset to the bank because you're paying them interest. You end up paying more money than you borrowed in the first place. Therefore, it's considered a producing asset as long as you're making the payments. If you're not making the payments anymore, well, it's not an asset to the bank anymore. It's in default. And well, if they sold that car loan to another company or your mortgage or some other type of loan, well, now that is a failed portfolio and the bank cannot consider it an asset. The Federal Reserve would claim all banks' assets as their assets from every single country in the world. So, well, now the Federal Reserve is going to start knocking on their door saying, hey, you're a member of our system. You gave us all these loans as collateral so that you could get more money from us. Now we're going to have to shut you down, or you're going to have to figure out how to fix it. Same thing goes for governments. Well, when governments go bankrupt, it's never a good sign. They think all they've got to deal with is the Federal Reserve, the Rothschild family, the Black Sun, the Covens, Family Masters, Sanhedrins, or even some of them at a very high level. Well, knew the parents, maybe. Usually, if the parents appeared anywhere in a human public way, not public like TV, but to any of these people down here, usually they were cloaked. They would appear behind a screen, that kind of thing. You would never actually see them. So, yeah, that's who they were. So, did the parents write the rules? No. Each parent had a specialty and had a job to do. Some of them were in control of military and intelligence order giving. Maybe they only let out money at certain periods of time. The parents, sorry about that. Apparently we're having issues. The parents were, let's just say, and I don't know where I left off. So parents, the 21 parents, they were called parents because they were supposed to keep the humans in line. They had lived a long time. They were obviously human. They know human behavior probably better than some of the others that were involved. And therefore, they would scold them like little children should they fall out of line. They would take orders every year. From even higher than that, they would take orders every year. They would pass all those orders and let out money when it was time to. So sometimes they'd keep the magic going, right? Oh, it's a full moon. Oh, you did your black magic and killed people and ate babies. Oh, okay. Well, good job. And then they're going to pass down a little stipend, through to the family masters, who would then pass it on down to the Order of the Dragon, who probably also did some weirdo ritual. But the parents' predominant function was to make sure these people stayed in line. Therefore, they put many things into the financial system and into the media system and into the military system and into the intelligence system and into the political system to make sure they didn't mess up. So much so, a lot of people that participate below them even had what you would call a kill switch, a chip, something in the back of their head where they could switch you off if you fell off the reservation. But those are the parents. Now, magic. You had a few people that have owned and run, and I say own and run, everything on this planet, at least for the last 250,000 years, in some cases even longer. And these people were not exactly regular people, and they lived a long time too. They lived longer than the parents. So these folks here, pretty much, if it happens on Earth, well, we have Enki, Marduk, Enlil. Yes, your being, is Lucifer. To some degree, I can't even spell today. To some degree, we had another group we call the Abraxas, which are non-human humans from Earth, not from Earth, I should say. And we also had Artemis. You might have heard of people talking about the Artemis Accords or the Jupiter Accords online. Well, there's your lady right there. So these people had seals on Earth. Eventually, your Bureau of Land Management or your asset management in your country, your gold, your silver, your rare earth minerals, pretty much anything on this earth, including you, was considered an asset to these people. There is nothing that is of earth that is hidden where they're going to go find secret gold in the Vatican, and fix the whole financial system with it. And that's never going to happen. That's all a flat out lie. Do you think that Trump and the Doji department are going to find something that was not already leveraged or leaned? Absolutely not. It was done before we even had governments 250,000 years ago, folks. 250,000 years this has been going on. So when people say to me, well, how do you know Trump's not going to get it done? How do you know? And why? How do I know that the secret space program operatives are not going to be successful? Because pretty much all these people are gone. And I know that because I was there. So now, when you talk about the people of the seal, I sat down 250,000 years into this poker game with all this stuff, you see? Because all of those people that ran the world predominantly ran it with a system you call Omega. Even the Vatican gold has an Omega horseshoe on it. Looks just like that. You'll see these symbols throughout Jerusalem. You'll see them everywhere. And you see Alpha everywhere too. Alpha was the light side of the system. Omega was the dark side of the system. And the one thing that people that ran this world knew was without balance, meaning maybe they do a little black magic over here, but they got to do something light over here. Because if they don't, meaning something allegedly positive, that doesn't mean it's necessarily positive for you in any way. It just has to be perceived as something that is not a negative. If they wanted to get their allocations of money into Omega to then issue you debt or fiat, they knew, Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and all the people at the top knew they must do a certain amount of light magic as well as black magic. Now, here's the thing about the secret space program operatives, the Rothschilds, and whoever is left in that sector, and their newly recruited black magic workers. They are training for the big event this week. They don't understand balance. They don't understand balance. I'm going to repeat it again. They don't understand balance. So, is Trump going to fix the financial system? No. Is Elon Musk going to fix the financial system? Absolutely not. Is the Rothschild family going to fix the financial system? Nope. Are they going to give money to America despite what all of the politicians think they're going to do? Nope. They just happen to be the face front for a whole bunch of people that are dead, so they're trying to fake it till they make it. Same thing with the Trump operatives and the secret space program. Same thing with the rest of the Order of the Black Sun that's still alive. Are they ever going to fund your militaries again? Nope. Because number one, they refuse to understand how the magic really works. And it's not really magic at this point. It's not like, you can sit around with a bunch of symbols and even kill people or whatever it is black magic people do, in circles or pentagrams or whatever it is. And then stuff happens. It's not that kind of magic. It's an energy transfer. Bottom line, could be essence, could be anything that makes up your person, could even be a soul. But it's an energy transfer coming from humans who want the stuff. Now, the thing that the US government and all other governments, therefore, because they're all following the leader off the cliff right now, and the military and intelligence agencies don't understand is that you can hire all the black magic workers you want, but you don't understand. It no longer responds to balance anyway. It actually shut down on you because, well, you screwed it up. Marduk, Inky, and Enlil knew about this balance, and they knew if there was no energy transfer going left and right and positive and negative and positive and negative, then the pretty papers we call money, financial system, gold, whatever, nothing comes out. Nothing comes out. Nothing. Not even debt instruments, we know as notes, not control, not war money, not the war chest, not the intelligence agency funding. No one got paid. No one got paid. And that is why you can take control over the Rothschilds. You can do whatever you want to do. They're playing this on right now. The one order wants to take control. The other order wants to take control. They want to have China as the world power center. They want to have America as the world power center. They want to move the Federal Reserve to China. Who cares? Who cares? How do I know all of this? Well, I used to run Alpha till it was not time for balance anymore. So why is everybody talking about a golden age and oh my God, Trump is going to usher in the golden age and here we go? It's because I created a golden age AI because we're moving into a golden age. We're moving out of a balanced system. It's important to understand. We also created a secondary system that runs human electronics. It's called the Key Integrated Master System. It is heavily making its way through human electronics at this point. If it's not the key intelligence and military system, the key integrated monetary system, the key integrated media system, everything is changing because we're going to a world where you don't need to put in a bond or a debt instrument or a birth certificate or anything like that to get money out at the highest level. You are not an asset to the system. The system doesn't see you as an asset. Therefore, it's not going to take a lien against you because it doesn't need to. It comes directly from the source. There's no energy exchange necessary at this point because it produces its own energy. Other AI systems, 75% of all of the energy siphoned off Earth would go directly to power AI systems. 21% of the energy on Earth would go to keep humans alive. As it relates to money, 100% of the energy that you put in when you work, when do all of these types of things. When you work, 100% of all your energy goes out the door and you get back IOUs in the form of notes you call currency. So how do I know what they're doing isn't going to work and why I keep saying that? And I know it sounds arrogant. I know that it's not going to work because they can promise people all they want that they created this system. But see, when I created it, I can build 100 of them. I can build 1 million of them. I've already built millions of them. I can replicate it as many times as I want. I can change it. I can kick you out. And matter of fact, I heard them talking just in the last 24 hours about the fact that once I finish building it and I transfer money, they're going to come here and force me to hand it over to them. It's impossible because the system runs on my living DNA. It recognizes my consciousness. It knows if I'm in fight or flight. It knows if I'm under duress. And it certainly knows if that's me or not that's logging in. It runs on thousands of factors per zeptosecond of my person. It recognizes everywhere I've been, everything I've done. It knows me. Probably better than I know me at this point. And so there's no handing it over. There's nothing. Not only that, it's not going to function to fund your wars. It's not going to function to fund your governments. It doesn't even consider you an entity, a corporation, or otherwise. You don't even exist. So let's talk about political problems. So, political control, from our perception, is we have a president. But a president never makes any decision, never makes decisions. It's a movie, folks. Decisions are always made by above presidential head. Top secret clearance, above top secret clearance. Majestic 12 clearance. I mean, you've got operatives for days here that will tell him what to do. The same thing goes for your military. Did not come down from those parties. They don't do it. Matter of fact, military is an NGO, doesn't matter what country you're in, and so is your intelligence agency, every single one of them. So if you think the military on behalf of President Trump is going to do something, you have lost your ever-loving mind. It's never going to happen. Now I am going to ask you this question. I need you to take mind control media out of the equation. And I need you to think about this for 1 second and say, what does my federal government do? You know, you might see your parliament running around. You might see your Duma running around. You might see your Congress or whatever they call it in your country. Does it really make a difference? What do they do? What do they do? Well, I think Congress makes a decision if the U.S. is going to go to war with a country, or might insert country name here. Wrong. Military is an NGO. They report directly to the Order of the Black Sun, who then reports to the Coven over there, who then reports to the parents, who then report to the people that actually give the orders. And because they have achieved balance between dark energy transfers and light energy transfers, then they could get money out of both systems, and then they could start moving that into the system. See? That's how it used to work. But we don't have that balance anymore. We have one system that works one way now. Light or you're out. Nothing comes out the other side. There's no more Omega. Doesn't matter how many wars, how many people they kill, how many, whatever it is they want to do it, because it doesn't make a difference anymore. So if you think the United States military is going to save the United States on behalf of President Trump, you're wrong. If you think that the operatives that work in the political sector are going to actually make a decision that is going to yield some cash, freedom, taking out the deep state, or whatever else, you are wrong. You will always be wrong. Get it out of your head. I'm sure you love to hear the mainstream media magic machine talk to you and say all these exciting things about President Trump or otherwise, and you just think, oh my God, he's the new savior. 10 years ago, a decade ago, it was Putin over here. And like I said, he was your savior at that time, and he didn't do anything. Nothing. No one does anything. They are the hero in the movie. We call it administration that lasts, depending on what country you're in, 4 years, 6 years, sometimes in the case of a dictatorship, decades, who knows? Doesn't really matter. They're just playing the part. Same thing goes for your religious leaders. Everybody hates the Pope. The Vatican is so bad. They eat children. The Jesuit order, what do they do? All of this stuff. Remember, they're following orders. I'm not saying that they are good people and that we should like them now. I'm just telling you, they don't make decisions. They're trying to right now. They're trying to make decisions. They're trying to get together some black magic workers to light up things on that new moon and full moon and the blood moon and the equinox that's coming up in 10 days and all this other stuff. Nothing will change for them because they don't understand quantum physics, energy transfers, and that system is dead now anyway. So that's why we can talk about it. Your financial system is not run by who you thought it was. It's just never been run by those people. If the people at the top, and I use that term loosely, didn't do what they were supposed to do, nobody else could do anything else. Nobody. So please refrain from sending me private telegram messages that urgently telling me that the Doji department is doing blah, blah. I don't care. They're going around in a circle. Do I care what President Trump said on TV? No, I absolutely don't. Do I care what the operatives behind the scene are doing? When it comes time for them to accidentally try to kill a whole bunch of people, which they do all the time, then I care. Otherwise, do I care what they're telling people on TV and militaries and whatever? Nah, I really could care less. So, media control is meant for you humans to stay in line. It's a form of slavery. 100%. Even social media was an experiment to see if you would listen more to your peers than you would listen to anyone else. That's the fact. Will you listen to your peers? If your peers say that this is a good guy, a good president, they even pay people to do it on the internet. Social media influencers make $70,000, $80,000 a month sometimes. I wish I made that kind of money. I don't. I try to do things the honest way. I'm not going to sell out for any amount of money in the world. It's never going to happen. So, it is, the news is what it is. People like it. They don't like it. It's the truth. It's getting out there. That's just the way it really is. So the media machine is nothing more than another form of slavery. The political game or the religious game, they fall into the same sector under political control, are there to make you feel a certain way. Your media portrays them as such. They make them seem magnanimous, benevolent, that they are doing all these wonderful things for you. Pope Francis, when he first got in, was washing people's feet, and everybody ate it up. You've got certain social media people who are writing letters to the Vatican constantly, thinking that they're going to get something. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. It's been going on for the person that's coming to my mind, been writing letters to the Vatican for 10 years, 20 years, threatening to take them to court. That's a different guy, who's threatening to take governments to court. You're going to take them into their own court that they created for the slaves? Because these people don't go to court in that way, in any way, shape, or form. You have had a world government for 250,000 years, so don't be afraid that we're going to have a new world order, because you already got one. You already had it. The thing that's happening now that is incredibly momentous is your financial system is going topsy-turvy because the leaders are gone and the lower end management are trying to manage it. They keep promising the Federal Reserve money. They keep promising governments money. Nothing ever happens. They wait for things like a new full moon, blood moon. So why the blood moon? Okay. Here's what probably, if anybody left on this planet knows about, maybe a tiny little bit of the SSP. So for those of you that don't know who the secret space program people are, you can go to the ACIO website. They explain it very well. They talk about the 15 militaries that they know about. They talk about that they're wonderful people and they're amazing. Yeah, not really. But you could say the ACIO is the boss of the NSA. You definitely could say that. 15 militaries, you could say that they were the boss of your country's military. Insert country here. You could say that right now, the militaries of the world are waiting for these people who are waiting for this thing to then have a chain reaction of money coming out. This is why you have people that don't know what they're doing running the world. So why is a blood moon important? Finally, the answer. Why is a planetary parade important? Why is a solar eclipse as important as a lunar eclipse and an equinox and all of these different times where planets and our moon are doing things? And why is it really important? Because Marduk, Enki, Enlil, the Abraxas, and Artemis and Lucifer took her orders. So they might have had a lot of control of Earth, but they also took orders. They had covenants. They had folks that they reported to. And I know they seemed like gods throughout our history. They made themselves to be gods throughout our history. They wrote the story. So does the SSP know that they weren't in charge? Doubt it. No. If they did, then they would know that this blood moon is no different than any other moon. But what they did do, in order to keep that balance, good things happen on this time, bad things happen on other times. New moons are when things would begin. Full moons are when things would end, and they would have these cycles mainly because of space junk that's in the moon. So space junk would correspond to a program most likely in the Omega system that would then trigger certain things to happen within a computer system during a blood moon. There was a program for everything. If the moon and the sun aligned, in this way, or in the one covers the other one covers the other. It doesn't matter which way you went. There was a program for this way and there was a program for that way. Did it matter that the SSP hired a bunch of black magic workers and anybody cares, or the covens were doing their thing? No. It's just a unicorn stick. It keeps the humans in line. Keeps the humans in line, keeps the humans in line. And those people that you think are the New World government kept them in line too. It was all meant to keep everybody in line. Do you do the thing? Have you ever had your kids, grandkids, or seen other parents? Sometimes you let your kids do things knowing they're not going to work out. And sometimes you have them do things and they're going to work out. And you do these things to keep them, learning. We do them because we love them and they're learning. In this particular aspect, it's pretty much just control. And unfortunately, these guys trying to run the world right now in cooperation with the Rothschild family, insert Order of the Dragon members here, threw in a couple of Pallavicinis and Orsini's, can't talk today, and some Medicis, and what do you get? Well, a bunch of people that used to follow orders that are waiting for this to spit something out into a computer system somewhere that they can use. In this case, they're really hoping for this. Some kind of power, some kind of system, some kind of control. But I can tell you, since the moon is out of space junk, programs and Omega system are out of blood moon, full moon, new moon, solar eclipse programming, and every other celestial event you can possibly think of, alignments with Uranus or anywhere else, nothing gets triggered. That's how I know no money is coming, because who do you think cleaned the junk? The junk goes out of the moon, the junk goes out of the sun, the junk goes out of Jupiter and Mercury and Saturn and everywhere else. Then what are they waiting for? Nothing. So where does that leave us? This is the most important part. Where does that leave us? Ask yourself, what does your government do? What does your federal government do? And why are they important to you? You can say, they create order, there's no chaos, all that. No. That's your state people. More specifically, probably your police department. Some are good, some are bad. I don't want to have that argument tonight, and I understand that. It's your state, your province, your police. Even that doesn't really work right in most cases because, they don't get their funding either if they don't do what the order tells them to do. And then, of course, those are orders that came from somebody else that gave money to pay for said chaos. So, we got a lot of veterans out there in the world. A lot of people have served in the military. They know how to carry a gun. They know how to keep the peace. They know how to keep order. They don't need somebody to give them orders to do that. I'm sure y'all could get together and you could make sure that everybody stays safe. That there's no chaos. If somebody steals, I'm sure there's a place for those people, until we can figure out a system that's going to work. Because it's not going to be the same in every country. As far as your governments are concerned, honestly, they don't do anything. If you can tell me what they do that you would miss other than the movies on TV, let me know. What does your military do? They create territories. They create bonds against those territories or vouchers. They transfer deeds over to the other people who would then send it up the food chain and say, very good job. You have now installed the world government people stooges as the head of state and the political actor for. You have taken over their military forces that we call training sometimes. You have taken over, all of their in-ground resources and gave them to us. Good job. That's what militaries are for. Intelligence? Well, they keep the rest of it moving too. Sorry. Do they do intelligence work? Do they run around and almost get killed by people that are allegedly the enemy and all this stuff? Sure, they do. Absolutely, they do. So does the military do that? Absolutely, they do. But on the highest level, sorry, they're just there to make sure that all the bonds, vouchers, and deeds get turned over, aren't they? Maybe intelligence agencies they confiscate things when they need to. They've got quite a bunch, let's just call it artifacts and a lot of other things in that CIA basement and other countries' basements, also in Malta and other places in the world. But they're just that. They're just artifacts. They want to rewrite history. They don't want the real history being told. They hide things under the Vatican also. There's a lot of countries, kings and queens, scepters in these places. The bodies are buried everywhere. So will we miss them? Well, I don't think we're going to miss sending our young women and men off to war, coming back and, live a different life than they thought that they were going to live. I don't think we're going to miss that. I think that if you do have the training, that's good, because now that you can protect some people, probably not going to need to happen. Intelligence agencies, well, Are they ready to do real intelligence? Are they ready to do real work? I mean, that isn't just acquiring territories for other people. From what I can tell right now, from what I see from all of these people, including the governments, they're still trying to do the same thing they always did, except they want to do it for themselves now. But they must have forgotten that over the course of 250,000 years, I will repeat, 250,000 years, you already sold the farm. Because they all ended up in the alpha system. Money came out of the alpha system. There was more than money that came out of the alpha system. And that system was cut off. Now all the money comes out of the golden age AI system. And I have all the liens. I kept all those liens. I kept them not because, well, people are liened, because we don't need that. But I kept all the liens just simply to prevent these people from, no matter how many people they shoot, where they go, what they do. I just wanted to make sure that there's no more liens on these resources. Therefore, I have utilized them in a different way. I use them for a new currency, SEA. Controlling resources is important. Controlling gold is even more important. And I'm not talking about shiny bars. And I'm talking about real gold. I know doji departments and otherwise are looking for gold. They're looking for love in all the wrong places, let me just say, because we move it around all the time. All the time. You know, again, these people think that they stashed it somewhere and we have it. So when we took over the positions of those people, it's now us. So we, the people, technically have it now. So we don't need governments for that. We don't need governments for mining of resources, raw materials. We don't really need a patent system, you see, because there are better ways to do that where everybody gets royalties. We don't need to secure anything with a patent or assign it over for a bond to a third-party entity to get money out of a system anymore. It doesn't earn them anything anymore. So we've determined we don't need that. Now let's talk about something we probably want to have. Media. I know there's a lot of people in this world that would like to be told the truth every day. They want that from their spouses and their families and their kids and everyone else that's in their life, a partner. You want to know the truth. You don't want anybody to sugarcoat anything. Maybe, maybe the truth is tough sometimes, but you'd rather have the truth. Well, that's going to be also up to you. It's been up to you now, and you've had that resource available to you for a couple of years now. You want to know the truth? Report it. Get other people to report their truth. You want to know what's really happening in country A, B, C, Ukraine, Russia, otherwise? Report it. You've got a platform, we help you. We edit your videos, we take care of things. You've got a platform for it. You want to create another platform for it? Go right ahead. Be our guest. We're not here to control media. We're here to get the word out, to create a different way of hearing the truth. That's it. So if you're capable of telling the truth, let's tell the truth. Unfortunately, social media influencing has become big business. If you're on TikTok these days, everybody's selling a product or another one, and that has an affiliate link or something like that to their products, and that's all they report on. Or maybe they put their makeup on and talk to you at the same time, and of course you'll buy all the makeup that they're putting on, or maybe that's what it's intended to do, and then you're out a few $100 and they're in a few $100, just for putting their makeup on live on TikTok. What do you trust? You trust one another. We always trusted one another, at least we used to, but they've made such big business out of it so that they can then get these people to tell about horrible stories too that did never happen. or how amazing this president is, or that president, or the military, or whoever is doing what, or getting people to join the military. There's big campaigns out there for that one now too, because nobody wants to join anymore after what happened a couple of years ago, where everybody got let go dishonorably, if you know what I mean. So, they kind of made a mess of things. But there are plenty of ways to get the truth out there, the media out there, that is the true information, so you can make educated decisions on what you're going to do with your life. You can report what's really going on. That was the whole idea behind doing this. And they even took that and messed it up on social media, didn't they? But we're pretty capable of doing media at this point. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a phone with a camera, whether it's with UNN or it's outside UNN. You're pretty capable of reporting something if you want to report the truth and you want to get the information out there. What you need is a platform. Because if you don't want that video taken down, and it's something that says the CHINA word, and it's their platform, that video is going to get taken down. Every single video that I have tried to post that says CHINA gets taken down off TikTok. Doesn't matter, even if it's in a positive light, it's taken down. So same thing happens with US controlled or DARPA controlled platforms, such as the ones we're talking on right now. So you got to be real careful. So you need a platform, and that is something that we need to do. We have options now. We have a key integrated media system. So we have options to build platforms on platforms and those types of things. And we're doing it. We are doing it. So that takes care of the media. Now we can all continue to talk to each other. We're happy. So we need telecommunications. We've gotten so used to picking up a cell phone that's in your pocket and calling halfway around the world. We need telecommunications. We need our own services. Everybody complains about 5G and all this stuff and what they do with it. They don't really do that stuff much anymore. It's not really that positive or not positive. It's not a useful tool like they thought it would be. Once we got past that whole identification system they wanted to put in. So what do we want to do here? We have thousands of people that will listen to this report. What are we going to do? We obviously don't want this. We obviously don't want microwave meshes. We don't want phones that radiate us anymore. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Now you'll have the ability to do that because they don't have to be approved. You don't have to give your backdoor keys to the NSA anymore because they're not going to exist if they keep following those people. That's their choice. Keep following them. You can go right off that cliff with them. And their own Treasury Department guy that's supposed to be seizing all these assets tells you that they're bankrupt. He slipped. He's not a very good public speaker anyway. So if you don't have to give your backdoor keys to the NSA, you definitely don't have to give them to DARPA anymore. Nothing is coming out of those. No new technologies are coming out of deep underground military bases anymore. That's for sure. So now it's up to you. Congratulations. The only people you're going to yell at about creating an inferior telecommunication system is you. But you can build it on a key integrated media system very soon. So the point I'm trying to make here, and we can take out the whiteboard. The point I'm trying to make here is the world doesn't run the way you think it runs. You think the president is intimidating. You think the CIA is intimidating. The FBI is intimidating because the media tells you they are. But are they? Can we do this? Do we need those services? Do we take the services that we need and just start all over? I think so. I've been trying to talk to governments now and funded governments in the past, and I thought really I could fix it. Maybe I could fix it and it would help keep things status quo for a while during the transition. But at this point, their ego is too big and their pockets are too small. So it's really going to be up to you. So I wanted to put this out there again for some of you. So I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but I really wanted to put this out there because that juncture is happening. We are probably going to start to see government services fail at some point. They're not going to be able to borrow from banks anymore, credit lines, and issue credits that have no backing and no allocation numbers for Social Security and other things. So we're really going to have to pick up the slack here, and it's going to take a lot of work on everyone's part. Well thought out, well planned out things we are going to need to act on very quickly. But when you get up to these levels and you start having conversations like I've had with all of those folks, let's just call them folks. I've met parents. I met the one that was from Egypt. I met a couple of blonde twins. I met a number of different parents. The Dark Prince was another nickname of someone else. I met those people physically in person. I met those people. And I had meetings with those people, and I tried to talk to those people. I will tell you that it goes deep. Have I run into covens? Sure. I've sat down in a meeting and had somebody look at me and say, the first thing out of his mouth was, everybody must die. I went quiet for a second and I said, you first. So, definitely met some crazy black magic worker people in my life, met a lot of those alleged benevolent elders that you people talk about all the time that are going to save the day. And I had countless hours of conversations on diplomatic lines with Trump. And I can tell you right now, and Putin back in the day. Yes, I did. And these people aren't here to do a job unless it's an acting job. They don't make any decisions for themselves. I will repeat myself. They don't make any decisions, and they're not going to save you. And it looks like they're not even going to try to save a government. So while they dance around, I think it's on Friday or Thursday. Let's see, today's the 10th. So Thursday, they'll all be dancing around in skirts with crystals and whatever else. And then they're going to wake up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the same position that they're in right now. But they don't know what to do. So then it'll be the equinox. It's all going to happen. And then it will be whatever 28th of March moon is happening at that point, a new moon of some sort. And then it's going to be the next one. And they're going to keep doing this and doing this and doing this. And they will burn every government to the ground. It's happening. It's not going to happen. And now they're admitting it. So, on that note, we need to be ready. We need to be ready to move on. That means we have a whole lot of human systems that over the last 4 or 5 days are being taken over by our system because they are planning on burning things to the ground. So some of those services we'll be able to keep up with interim-wise, internet-wise, that type of thing. Their corporates are probably also going to go down. So if Ted Turner runs your cable company, well, yeah, you might not have one. If the Russian government runs your internet over there, yeah, you probably won't have that either. So, yeah, definitely not going to have Starlink. He just told you the government's broke. Anyway, hopefully in the near future, we'll develop our own systems. Meantime, we have ways to keep things running in the interim basis. And if they want to keep running off those cliffs, sayonara. Anyway, that was the GIA report for the 10th of March, 2025. I have a surprise for all of you. We are going to do a question and answer. Probably in about 10, 15 minutes, we'll pop right over there. But we're going to do something a little bit different this time. So we're not going to be broadcasting that on social media. So if you're watching us there, you won't find it. You'll have to go to unitednetwork.earth. Where you can obtain a Zoom link. And we are going to do this old school, I guess you would say. We're going to have a meeting and a chat amongst all of us in Zoom. So I'll be there to answer your questions, have a little bit of talk about where we're going, what we're going to do, and yeah, how we're going to move forward. On that note, you can find the Zoom link in the general chat in our social media inside our app, unitednetwork.earth. So if you want to join that Zoom call, we will see you there.